Hi, this is Joe with the Healing Tree, a family-owned business where we offer natural products for everyday living. And we are doing a video interview that's called Balancing Your Mind, Body During This Pandemic, because we know a lot of you are, of course, stuck inside and just dealing with all of the issues that come with the stay-at-home order and not being able to work for many of you unless you're an essential worker. And I wanted to introduce you to somebody who has done a lot of work with the mind-body connection with people. And her name is Michelle Hillier. She is a mind-body author and coach obsessed with helping others learn the science behind getting results. And she began teaching 20 years ago. For the past 6 years, she's been a trainer of neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy. She loves sharing with others the psychology of health and success. She can't wait to share her methods with you. She's also the author of this book, Inspired Magic, Your Guide to Transforming Your Life with the Power of the Mind. So Michelle, thank you for being on here.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I'm excited to be here. I love technology. Even though we're not in the same room, we get to share our message from two different locations across the world. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, the world is changing right now. And just to start off, I mean, I want to know how you feel if the world is going to continue in this way, or are we going to go back to the way things were, based on the history of pandemics in the past?
I mean, I guess the last time we had a pandemic of this size was the Spanish flu, right? Over 100 years ago, just about 100 years ago. And life wasn't, changing as quickly as it is now. I remember when I'm going to date myself now, but you already said I've been teaching for 20 years. When I was in college, I didn't have a cell phone that I ran around with. There was no internet, when I was in high school. So the way that life is changing so quickly, I think that we have the opportunity to change even more for the better versus back with the last pandemic or, previous pandemics. They kind of just went as usual. I think if we're smart, we're going to take what we learn now and try and implement some new ways of thinking and behaving so that if this does come around again, we already have a way to feel comfortable and strong and confident in what we can do next.
And what can you say about some of the fear and uncertainty that people have right now?
I think that it's warranted. I think there's a really big misconception that if you have a very strong mindset, then you don't feel fear and you don't feel anxiety. That's just not the case. You can have a really strong mindset, be very optimistic, and still let doubts creep in. The difference is it's just not letting those fears, doubts, and anxieties hamper the good that you can feel in a day. And that's really why I was excited to talk to you today, is just to go over some of the tools and tricks that we can use during this time of uncertainty to give ourselves a little more structure so that when those fears creep in, we have a way to combat them and not let them bleed into, day after day after day.
And I know that you do personal coaching, one-on-one coaching with people. I mean, I believe you're still doing that, but remotely.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
What are you finding in terms of the people who are reaching out to you who need help?
It's such a good question. The people who are reaching out to me, the one thing that they have in common is they're allowing the big unknown to just swallow them whole. And the truth is every single day we are faced with unknowns. Even if you have a stable job and a secure marriage and children and great health, this is not to say anything's doom and gloom, but we never know what the next day is going to bring. So it's really about allowing ourselves to be flexible and strong and have the confidence that we have this, the tools and the skill set that no matter what comes along to be able to handle it. So I would say by and large, the people who come to me, they're looking at the unknown as this big black hole versus trying to take things one day at a time.
Well, I know that in the past, when there's been issues like the 2008 crisis, there are people who tend to either they cave under the pressure or they begin to thrive and new businesses are created as a result, But besides that, how do you feel like people should, maintain their mind, their health, their spiritual sense of well-being during this time? Or should they just treat it as more like a vacation and hope that things will just get back to normal and they'll have a job when the time comes?
So there's this great book that I read many years ago called Who Moved My Cheese? Have you heard of this book?
Yes.
So Who Moved My Cheese, the very short version is there's these two little people and then there's these mice, and there's an abundance of cheese, and one day the cheese is gone. And the mice go running through if I get this wrong, pardon me, here's a metaphor. They go running through the maze trying to find where more cheese is. Whereas the two little people decide, I'm just going to stay here and wait for the cheese to come back to me. That is where the world we're living in right now. We can stand still and hope that everything goes back to normal. But the truth is with an event of this size that has actually stopped what we're doing and the economy and the way that we're living our life, if we wait for it to go back to normal, we are wasting valuable time to become adaptable to what can come next. I don't think this world will ever be the same after this. I think that if we're smart, we'll think, okay, we need to be able to be flexible and move forward in different ways. But that doesn't mean that we have to give up on all the things that we used to love to do, right? Restaurants will reopen. I will finally get my hair done again. Things will happen. Yeah, definitely. What was the rest of your question? Sorry, I tangented.
Well, it's that I think you addressed it, because some people will just hunker down and I guess not learn anything new, or maybe try to start a business on their own, because if they're out of work now and they're expecting to just go and have the same job, but with so many companies failing and 30 million Americans filing for unemployment now,
Yeah.
I mean, those are big numbers. So it's either, I guess what I'm saying is, like, people that take it easy right now, or take action to make something happen.
So one thing you'll learn with me is food analogies are my favorite. So here comes another one. You go to a restaurant and you are dying to get a meal, and it's your favorite meal, and you always add avocado onto this plate. Let's say it's chilaquiles for breakfast. I love that. And that day they're out of avocado. Am I going to allow that lack of avocado to completely take away from all the other ingredients that I love, and the company that I'm going to be sitting with, and the nourishment that food is going to give me, and the smiles that I'm going to have during that conversation? I could, or I could say, you know what, look at all the other things, all the other pieces that are still here in place. I think one of the biggest things that we can do is focus on the things that we still have, even when things go wrong. This morning I read that a company I used to work for, which will go unnamed, laid off a significant number of their force. And a lot of those people I really care about and really love. And now they're stuck in a situation like millions of Americans. What comes next? The ones who decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to control the controllable. I'm going to update my resume. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to see, you know what, I wasn't thoroughly satisfied in this last position. What else can I do? I'm going to take stock in the skill set that I have, and maybe I'm going to be more creative in my next role. Maybe I'm going to be more in a leadership position. There's a huge opportunity here with, like, an earthquake shakes everything up so things can settle more, soundly, to really make a change in their lives. Now, immediately you have to figure out what you're going to need to put a roof over your head and food in your belly, right? Once you have that covered, then it's time to just start thinking about what else is possible.
And can you talk about some of the news watching? Because right now it's the 24-hour news cycle is all about coronavirus.
Yeah.
And I think it can grip people into a state of fear and panic.
Yeah. I think so news in general is pretty doom and gloom, because that's how they're able to reel people in. Rarely will you open up the news and see all of these great stories about people thriving and health and money abundance. That's just not how they get people to watch. If you are a person who is easily susceptible to going to a dark place while watching the news, go on a news hiatus. Give yourself a news break, and maybe only watch 30 minutes from a reputable source. Now, this is not going into any kind of fake news media or anything like that. I'm not going into politics whatsoever, because that's not why we're here. But go to a source that is maybe a third party. Maybe watch the BBC and see what's going on, over there abroad. Go to a news media channel that is not so politically affiliated. Go to science. Go to anything.org.gov. to get the numbers, and then also realize that that is just a snapshot of what's going on. But again, if you are someone who is easily susceptible to going to a really dark place and it's unhealthy for you, go on a hiatus and don't watch it.
Is there a certain, I mean, because we all need to be informed to some degree, but is there a certain recommended amount in terms of watching per day? And also, how would you suggest like they shift their attention to something else that will be better for their mind?
Well, again, it goes back to controlling the controllable. So right now we're getting statistics. I can't help myself but watch the statistics every morning. I watch it in the morning. I want to know what's going on. I want to see the patterns and trends. I am a nerd like that. And also I'm very curious, but I notice that I don't feel amazing afterwards. So what I need to do is then focus on the number of people who have recovered. Focus on some of the stories of like the 101-year-old woman who recovered, who's been through all these different things. Focus on the people who are healthy, and then start thinking about, okay, so this is what's going on in the world. This is a reality, but what can I do to better my health and boost my immune system today to not become one of those statistics? We cannot avoid with certainty anything in life, but there are things that we can do to strengthen our mind and body, so that hopefully, should we do come into contact with corona or anything else, with the flu or anything else, we have a stronger chance of beating it.
And I'm sure you're aware about the suicide rates that have been going up regarding this. There's some people who can't handle being in one confined place for too long. Can you speak about that, and how people who have that feeling, that anxiety of being cooped up, that they can still connect with other people?
Yeah, God, it's such an important topic, Joe. So I think this is a time where we're really recognizing in the world there are introverts and extroverts. There are people who thrive and charge by being alone or with maybe one other person. And there are people who truly need to recharge the batteries with other people. Personally, I am someone who has always recharged by myself. In fact, if I go out to dinner with a bunch of people, I go home and I go in the fetal position and I need total silence for a little while. Well, for all the people who are just the opposite, who need hugs and need to be in the room with people, need the hustle and bustle of life, this is a real challenge. And for many Americans, and obviously people around the world, but speaking specifically to Americans, if you live by yourself, you have no pets, no significant other, don't live with a roommate, this is a very big and dangerous challenge for them to be facing, especially on the day-to-day. So here are some things that if this is someone, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, if you're feeling just really down due to this, first of all, know that there are crisis centers and helplines that you can call. Make sure that you are in touch with people on a daily basis. So don't let a single day go by without FaceTiming, Zooming, being on a video call with someone else. Make sure that you know you're not alone in this. So it's really easy to feel like, what's wrong with me? Everyone else is doing fine in this. I see pictures on Instagram. They're taking vacations. They're lying out by the pool. They're in their backyard. No, those are people who are handling it that way. There are millions of Americans who are feeling down. So if this is you, you are absolutely 100% not alone in this. And so it's time to start creating a support system. And here's some of the things that I recommend. First of all, in quarantine, the days run together, right? I don't know. Have you felt this? Just like, what day is it today? They just kind of all bleed into each other because we don't have that normal interaction we do. Has that been your case? I know it is for me.
It has not been for me, because Monday to Friday, I still dress up in a button up and slacks, even though I'm at home. And the weekends I'll put on jeans. So I'm able to separate it that way.
Okay. Did you hear that, you guys? This is a great tip. This man is, I can tell you, probably most people are at home watching this in sweatpants, which is totally fine, by the way. So it's having a routine. And that's really my number one thing. So even though you're not going into the office, even though you're not doing your normal 9 to 5, set your alarm, wake up, create a routine, a morning routine that makes you feel good. Cup of tea, cup of coffee, meditation, step out onto your balcony, your backyard, get some fresh air, but create some structure within your day, because structure really does help us thrive. Secondarily, make sure to, as I mentioned, connect with somebody every single day. And if you're someone who does need extra support, reach out to your system now, like, whatever your social system is, whatever your group is, and let them know, check in on me. And for anybody out there right now who's listening to this who are introverts and they're not bothered, reach out to your extrovert friends. Send them messages. I've been doing, there's an app, this is not sponsored, called Touch Note that I love. And it's an app where you can send physical cards to people. So I'm taking pictures of me and my family and sending it to my family members so they have something tangible in their hands. With little kids who are used to hugging their family members, get a stuffed animal on one side, a stuffed animal on the other side, and then each of you hug that stuffed animal, saying, "This is my hug to you." So it almost feels like you're touching somebody physically. But yeah, my biggest thing is just don't let yourself get swallowed up by being alone, and create a way to connect with others.
Yeah, I think that's great in terms of the connection and keeping with community. Based on what you're saying, going off of that, is I still do 2 calls with different groups of people every single morning from Monday to Friday. And that helps keep me ensuring that I wake up early because I have someone else to rely on, someone that I'm accountable to. Even though we're not able to do business right now, we're actually creating some of the products that when the time comes, we can actually go ahead and launch and sell. Now, I want to talk about also having gratitude for what you have, and also giving to other people who are essential workers right now in healthcare, and even people who are working in the grocery stores. Because our company, we actually just donated 360 soaps to a hospital in New York, because I know a doctor, a friend of mine, who went out there to volunteer.
Wow.
And families who are displaced, they have nothing now. They're asking for donations, and that's something, that we were able to give, and that helps me feel good as a family-run company as well. And can you talk a little bit about that? What people can do?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think that there's not an area of life that doesn't become elevated when you have gratitude. It really does shift the focus on what you don't have to what you have, because by and large, I think, first of all, if anybody's watching this, you have a phone, you have a computer, you have internet, you have electricity, you have more than a lot of people in this world have. And that doesn't mean, to make you feel bad for not having gratitude for the things that you have, but it's just to remind you that you probably have more in this life than you realize. And really taking the time to be grateful for it makes a big shift. So first, starting with the gratitude, a couple of tips. Start small. I think a lot of people think that they need to feel this great sense of gratitude for their house or their health or big things, and then they feel guilty for not feeling that way. But if you can even just start with the little things, like when you wake up in the morning, having gratitude for the soft way the pillow feels on your face, or when you're drinking that fresh cup of water, having gratitude for having that clean water. As you start really small, if gratitude is new for you, you can really build upon it, and it starts to become a part of your routine. And writing down what you're grateful for also is a way to embed it. So definitely focus on gratitude as one of your key things. It also has been proven to boost your immune system. Gratitude has. On the second part, essential workers. I think it's amazing that your family business has been able to donate 360 soaps to New York. That's something, again, that we take for granted, that we have access to these kinds of things. Doing things for others is the fastest way to really feel better. Now, it has to come from a place of abundance. So if you are struggling for money, don't cut a check for $5,000 to others, right? What can you give? Can you give time? Can you organize Zoom calls for you and your family? I've never had a Zoom, my family members this weekend, my sister sent out to my 20 cousins a Zoom link, and we all got on the phone for 2 hours, or on the computer for 2 hours on a Saturday. Why have we never done this before? My family lives all over the place. So what can you organize to help connect other people? Really give what you can give, even if it's small,
And there's nothing I wanted to bring up, which is something that's troubling, which is that domestic abuse has been on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as high as 20% in some cities, some major cities like Seattle, Boston, Dallas, even LA. It's up by 12%. I mean, for one thing, I think it's a good sign that people are calling in for help, but at the same time, what can you say to people who are in that situation and maybe feel like they're still powerless and they're not able to get the courage to speak out and reach out?
This time has really tested everybody, because even the healthiest of relationships are tested when you have to spend 24/7 in small quarters with a person, obviously with frustrations and anxieties and fears and other things arising. That'll test the most solid of relationships. And so if you have somebody or two people who are a little more volatile or used to just leashing out in anger, this is really dangerous. The same thing, there's a rise in child abuse as well. And maybe it's always existed, but now it's just being brought to light. Uh, there are so many organizations, and maybe, Joe, this is something that as you send this out, we can send links to domestic violence helplines and hotlines and all the different resources. But this is a time, as we talked about for everything else, to think about our futures, to think about making a change and not waiting for things to go back to normal. If this is arising, if there's any abuse that is happening on any level whatsoever, know that this is not your fault. It doesn't matter what triggered an event, but this is not your fault, because it is not okay ever to raise your hand to another person, especially, obviously a loved one. And you may feel powerless and trapped, and where do you go? But there are resources, there are shelters from both men and women, right? It goes both ways sometimes. And again, reach out to the networks that you have, because even in this place, your loved ones will want to support you in this. And there is no shame in coming out and being honest about this, because you don't want your future to mimic what your current reality is or what your past reality may have been. This is the opportunity to make a change, and also not let it escalate, because these things can get very, very dangerous.
And I know we're talking about a lot of touchy subjects here, but I think it's because of the pandemic, it's really given rise to a lot of these issues. And I wanted you, Michelle, to just cover the breadth of this. What can you say about empowerment during this time and staying active and not giving in to the fear and I'll be honest, like laziness that can come about from this? What can people do? Where can they go?
Yeah, wow. So it's hard. I live in Los Angeles. I live in a small apartment and I have a newborn. So life has changed so dramatically. My newborn still hasn't met my family, which is just madness. It really goes back to creating a routine and discipline, because they always talk about creating motivation. Well, when motivation stops or lacks or wanes, that's where discipline steps in. And so how you start your day is really going to lead into what happens for the rest of the day. So if you are someone who's kind of falling into a trap of staying in your pajamas all day, all night, now if you're getting things done, you're happy and healthy and it makes you really happy, keep going. But if you are falling into a place where you feel like you're falling behind, put on, shower, brush your teeth, eat a good breakfast, change your clothes, put on something that makes you feel good. I mean, right now you look great, and you say every single day, you put on your button up, you put on your slacks, on the weekends you put on your jeans. It creates structure for you, right? Create structure in that way. Also, if you're somebody who's used to going for runs outside or going to the gym, there are plenty of ways that you can work out right now. The Peloton app, the people who make the bikes and the treadmills, for 90 days, they're giving free workout classes online on their app. A lot of different companies are doing that. They're giving free workout classes online. So as long as you have access to a TV, your phone, or a computer, and 5x5 square feet of floor, yoga, run in place, jumping jacks, high knees, there are things that can be done.
And it's interesting that because I saw a statistic that about, I think it was between 50 to 60% of people were unhappy in their jobs. And I look at this as like, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for people to actually make a change in the employment that they were in, and maybe do something or create something that they truly desired. Can you talk about that? And maybe if somebody has always wanted to do something, follows something in their life to take action on, but they just haven't, and maybe
Yeah.
is the time to do it? What can you say about that?
So it's funny because I actually, this week, I've been doing Instagram stories on this. Have you seen this? Did you see that?
No, I see a lot of your Instagrams, but I haven't seen the one recently. So
So I was actually speaking specifically about this because, I asked the question to the public, why are you staying in the job that you are when you're unhappy? Because it's so true. So many people are very unhappy. And overwhelmingly, 80% of the people said they stay in the job they are because of lack of confidence. And only 20% of the people said they stay in the job that they're unhappy with due to lack of opportunity. So I think this is the time to really make a change. Now, I have to first say, if you're in a job and you're getting paid, make sure you're doing your job and not slacking off, right? Everybody relies on you. But in your own time, at nights and on weekends, it's now the time to think about what will make you happy. What will bring you more joy. And also, usually it's what are you really great at? And you're not giving yourself the opportunity to do. So a couple of things is to start by asking a couple of questions. What are you really good at? And if you don't know what you're really good at, sit down and think about, when my friends and family come to me, what did they come to me for? Right? So let's pretend that you're not an amazing filmmaker, which you are, and you've never thought about film before, but on the side, you do it as a hobby. You would say, wait a second, everybody always asks me to direct their, engagement videos, and everybody always asks me to direct their, storyline for whatever it may be. Maybe I should go into directing. It's a bad example, but you know what I'm saying. Start thinking about, what are people coming to you for? Think about the things that you do on the weekends and time alone that light you up. Think about the companies that you want to work with that have values that are similar to your own. So once you kind of get an idea of what you want to do, now it's time to work on the confidence, right? And here's what I really have to say about confidence. We are all born confident babies, right? We don't worry about anything other than, where's my next meal coming from? When's my diaper going to be changed? And where can I sleep next, right? And then what happens is something happens. We lose a spelling bee. We trip and fall off our, rollerblades, whatever it may be. And our bodies, our unconscious mind say, wait, don't do that again. That was bad. That hurt me. I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to put up this limiting belief that this is bad for me. And that's when our confidence starts going down. So what I want to say to everyone is, your confidence is still there. And a couple of ways that you can just reboot it. One, write down all the ways that you rock, all the ways that you are smart and intelligent, and all the talents that you have. Two, make a list of all the times that you set out to do something and you succeeded with grace and like a total rock star. And three is change your physiology. The way that your body is positioned. When we are not feeling confident, we slouch. We lower our head. We lower our voices. So if you just sit up straight, chin up a little bit, shoulders back a little bit, putting your hands on your, hips like this, like a superhero, raising your voice, coming up from down in depths and letting it out, you can change in just 1 minute how you feel. And so those are just kind of a few tips to make a change really quickly.
I've heard of those, because you're putting yourself into a place of power.
Mm-hmm.
And even like sometimes in the mornings, I'll just stand like this for a little bit.
Yes.
It completely changes my mindset.
Yes.
Because it's reaching out, it's going out, sending my energy outward instead of inward.
Mm-hmm. Tony Robbins, who, Anthony Robbins, amazing and NLP, obviously motivational speaker. He says prime every morning, and priming, he reaches to the sky and he pulls it down and then he pushes it up at the same time, jumps in a cold shower and, just feels gratitude for 5 minutes straight. It's an amazing way to raise your energy. But yeah, raising your arms to the sky, because here's why. Just based on science and like evolution, you're not going to be standing with your arms up in the air unless you're in a place where you're safe to do so. If there was a lion, you wouldn't be like, yes, you would probably sulk down and try and hide a little bit. And that's where the timidness and the shyness and the like make yourself small comes from. But if you're in a place where you're totally safe and you're able to just unleash, arms in the air, chest up, smile on your face. Throwing a smile on your face, even if you don't feel it for 1 minute, will start to release serotonin until you feel it.
Well, I think this topic of confidence and boosting yourself up, I think that's a great place to end on. So I thank you, Michelle, for you sharing all of your wisdom. And how can people reach out to you?
So they can reach out to me via my website, inspiredmagic.com. And then, as Joe mentioned, I did write the book so that, you know, my time with one-on-one coaching is limited, though I am still taking clients. I wanted to be able to give a lot of these tricks and tools on boosting immune system and raising confidence. So you can find it on Amazon, Inspired Magic.
All right. If you guys have any comments you want to share regarding this video, and if you liked it, and if you want to see more of this, feel free to, like I said, comment your thoughts and feelings about this and what's going on with you during this pandemic as well. Like, we'd like to hear from you. So, and that is about it. I'm Joe with the Healing Tree. And if you want any of our products, you can go to healingtreeproducts.com. We have a variety of natural health products for everyday living.